Well, that was a little bit better from Scotland, wasn't it? I mean, it wasn't a win, but it wasn't a 5-1 loss this time round. Drew 1-1 with Switzerland, and look, good value for the point, I would say, Scotland. It gives them a chance going into that last group stage game against Hungary, who desperately need to win themselves. And look, they win that, get 4 points, and that will probably be enough to see them into the last 16. And in which case, regardless, you call that a successful competition, regardless of what happened against Germany. But I will say, I thought they were not quite lucky, because you can't arc at the result. But this Switzerland team are good. This Switzerland team are very, very good. Played some really good stuff. I thought used their shape really well to disrupt Scotland, and I feel like they did well with their threat. Obviously, Scotland got a goal, but it was a counter-attacking goal from a corner, which sometimes those goals in games can just happen. Switzerland didn't deal with it well enough, but it wasn't like they carved them open through issues within their system. They just got caught on the break. You know, any fighter can get caught with a lucky punch. And as a result, they dropped 2 points. Didn't have enough attacking quality in the most vital areas to win them the game, apart from Shaqiri's fantastic goal about 15-20 minutes after the Scotland goal. But Scotland held on. They were resilient. They battled a lot more. They didn't give away as much space as they had previously in games, and have given themselves a bit of hope. We're going to go over the Scotland attacking shape first of all. Okay, so when Scotland would build up, originally it would be a bit more of a sort of 4-2 one-sided 4, as Ralston would push up into a right-wing position, which meant Jack Hendry took on the right-back position. The rest of the back 4, or the back 5, would shift across into a back 4. Then you get the 2 midfielders, McGregor and Billy Gilmour, showing for it deep. McTominay operating in between those midfield 2, and John McGinn and Che Adams, who would both try and pin down the wide centre-backs in this position and look for the direct option from the back. So let's just say it's Grant Hanley here on the ball. We'll try and knock it long to Che Adams here, who could then knock it down for the likes of McTominay showing deep for it, for Billy Gilmour maybe if he was on that side, for the run of Ralston and beyond to try and get on the end of those second ball opportunities if McGinn could hold off his marker and play it round. Switzerland counteracted it well though. You'd have Andoy coming on from this side, pressing the left centre-back in this position in Kieran Tierney. You'd have Shaqiri pressing Grant Hanley. You'd have Vargas doing the same to Jack Hendry. Xhaka and Freuler would go man-to-man on those midfield 2, and the wide centre-backs would engage in the battle with the front 2, with Aebischer pushing on to Anthony Ralston. This did leave McTominay free in between the lines, but if the ball was to go up to him to try in between the lines, then you'd get Akanji, or you'd get Ricardo Rodriguez pushing on, and that would mean Akanji would cover his position. So they would engage in that and try and stop him from winning the ball. And, to be fair, Xhaka and Freuler did a good job of keeping close to their man while blocking an obvious passing lane into Scott McTominay. And to be fair, Scott McTominay's use wasn't to be found in these deeper areas. It was more for the knockdowns from the front 2 if they could get on the ball. So that was a threat they didn't necessarily need to worry about that much, and they dealt well with it. If it did ever fall to him, you know, they'd react well. The midfielders would get back in quick, and they'd tighten it up in the middle of the pitch. But let's just say in the odd time that Scotland did push them back, how did it look? So again, Switzerland would go man-to-man on this Scotland team, and Scotland's main area of the pitch to hit was still those sort of wide forwards, McGinn and Che Adams, to hold on to the ball and look for the runners. Again, the positioning of Xhaka and Freuler integral in making sure the ball didn't go straight into McTominay between the lines. So they kept it well, and because of these 2 wide centre-backs occupying the 2 wide forwards and the wing-backs dealing with wing-backs, it meant Akanji had a very important role in this central centre-back position for this area. So let's just say if the ball was on here for a long pass into Robertson and he caught Sylvain Widmar napping, then Akanji would be key onto that, and he'd use his athletic ability to sweep up any pass that went in behind and covered it, recycled it back to the keeper where they could reignite their attacking phase. He was so cautious of everything that went in behind the line, and he's got such a great spring in his step, such great acceleration where he can catch up to those loose balls and deal with it. And he remained Scotland from really getting anywhere near that box and causing any real issues. Again, their goal in the first half came through an impressive counter-attack that really caught Switzerland napping, but in general play, Akanji wasn't allowing himself to be beaten down that side, and even Scotland's goal came through the most silly of deflections from Fabian Schär. Decent attacking shape from Scotland. They were probing a little bit more in the Switzerland game than they were the Germany game, but Switzerland deal with their press well in a man-to-man fashion, Akanji being integral in that central centre-back role and blocking passing lanes where necessary. And Granit Xhaka, by the way, is having a fantastic tournament. I think he's been excellent in both games. Off the ball, on the ball, fantastic player to watch, carrying on his great form from Leverkusen. Probably been one of the signings of the season across Europe. He maybe doesn't get that enough. But Switzerland's attacking phase now. Let's go over it. So Switzerland would build up in a sort of 3-2-5 type shape, and the main thing they would use to their advantage here is their use of the wing-backs. While Scotland's wing-backs were fairly conventional in the sense that they'd both just be attacking the wide areas as their main threat in the main attacking phase, one more than the other in the build-up phase, Scotland's was different. Vidmar would push up a lot more on this right-hand side, essentially operating as a right winger, allowing Ndoye in this position to come in, operating more centrally as a striker. Aebischer offered a more inverted role, coming in here to join up with the midfield two, Freuler and Xhaka, to create overloads in this central area. And as a result, Scotland's Anthony Ralston, who was playing the right wing-back, was set to press him. But because of the unnatural positions he was taken to, that meant there was a gap on that right wing. As Vargas would come into this area, Jack Hendry would come across as the more orthodox right back, so it meant that the centre backs were dealing with the right winger, the left wing back was dealing with the right back, and the right centre back was dealing with the left winger. So it was a bit all over the place. And Xhaka and Freuler would show for the ball deep together in a sort of narrow fashion to bring this Scotland press onto him, with Che Adams, with Scott McTominay, with John McGinn, and Callum McGregor coming into this area to press these three. And they'd split Fabian Schär very wide into this position so that if they could bring that press onto him long enough, Akanji could get on the ball in this area and play a good switch over to Fabian Schär, where he could then bring the ball out and attack with his fantastic ball carrying and ball passing. Ball passing? People say that? I don't know. Doesn't sound right now, I've just said it. And launch Switzerland's attacks from here. Use Scotland's press to their advantage. To be fair, Scotland were a lot more aggressive. They had more of a defensive identity in this game than they did in the Germany game, where they just kind of let Germany play. But Switzerland one-upped them and used their technical quality to beat the aggression that Scotland offered in this area. Then as they dragged the ball up the pitch, this is where this attack and play really kicked into gear. And not only did the overload happen in this area from Aebischer, it would also happen from Xherdan Shaqiri, who played as a false nine, dropping into this area here to try and outnumber and outmaneuver that Scotland midfield with Freuler and Xhaka. And all four, I think, did a really good job of just getting on the ball and producing little moments of quality with their passing and moving around Scotland's shape. Scotland then would drop into more of a conventional five at the back, just to try and prevent these wide areas from getting exploited. Because of the nature of the wide players stretching that back five, there was a lot more space for the Scotland defenders to cover, and they don't have the athleticism to carry it through with those runners, because Vargas and Ndoye are two athletic players that can get in behind if need be. So as a result, it meant Scotland dropped into more of their 5-4-1 shape that we saw with Shaqiri in this possession, with Aebischer coming inside as well. It meant that the wide centre-backs had more of a focal point to try and press in these areas here, or maybe the midfielders could deal with it, but it meant that these guys could get on the ball a bit more. It meant that the wide centre-backs could come and contribute to play a little bit more in these areas, especially Ricardo Rodriguez, who would come and overlap in this area here, allowing Vargas to move in a little bit further and produce some good combination play. And the reason you'd see this four in this area here is because them getting on the ball and getting Shaqiri in this area, he could take it on the turn and find angles for the pass into Widmer, who was a very athletic and very aggressive runner off the ball, because maybe Robertson or Tierney would come into press, leaving that angle free. Robertson doesn't really have the legs to keep up with that sprint speed anymore with the injuries he's had and the age he's gotten up to. So again, Switzerland using their shape to disrupt Scotland, especially in the wing-back area, as I said. Widmer doing Robertson and Aebischer bringing Ralston into this position, spreading that back four. And if this back four got spread a lot more, you typically see wide players playing a lot more narrow in this position, squeezing the defenders over to this side of the pitch. It then meant that Shaqiri had a lot more room in this area because of the wide players pushing the centre-backs and pinning them back, and just creating more of an opportunity for the Swiss team to overload this central area, which they did fantastically. And again, Ricardo Rodriguez would offer that late overlapping run, or he wouldn't really be picked up, that they could attack through. So the way they used that midfield fluidity to really hurt the Scotland team is a testament to their quality. They couldn't deal with Aebischer and Shaqiri coming in from the positions they were coming in from, which is why Shaqiri was able to move in between centre-backs for his goal undetected and score an absolute beauty of a goal. And you need the strong base of Xhaka and Freuler in this area to give them the foundation to unlock that. And Akanji and Schär, technically, fantastic as well. Just lacked a bit of quality in that final third. You know, Widmer, Ndoye and Vargas just didn't have that extra bit of sauce to win them the game. But take nothing away from Switzerland's performance. In their first two games, they've been absolutely fantastic. And their game against Germany is not a foregone conclusion, no matter how well Germany started off this tournament, because Switzerland will be a very tough game for them, and I look forward to seeing that one take place. But I'd love to know what you guys think. Let us know in the comments. Cheers, lads. in a bit.